All right, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We have Ann. I don't want to butcher that
That's okay. It's
next.
Ann Accetta-Scott.
Okay, there you go. So we have Ann here, and she is on Instagram. Really good over there. We're going to talk to her about everything from why she started doing homesteading, why she likes to teach you guys on social media and stuff over on her Instagram page and stuff. So first of all, thank you for coming on tonight. I really appreciate this, and we're glad to have you on because we've been waiting for this for a while, and I was really excited to get you on. And I was so thankful that you said yes because I don't get a lot of yeses. I get a lot of
really?
I get a lot of crickets a lot of times, a lot of no answers. Yeah. So when you said yes, I was very excited about that. So thank you so much for taking some time out to join us on our live stream today.
That's awesome. No, of course I would rather help out than not help out and stuff like that. And besides, it's good that you have different voices that do different things and stuff like that. And I think that's important. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Ryan, for inviting me. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So, first off, let's just get right into it. Why did you start homesteading? What was the moment that you said, "Hey, this is something I need to be doing"?
It wasn't really a moment of like what needed to be done and things like that. What it was that we had just bought a couple of acres of land. We used to live in Washington State, so basically right outside of Seattle by like 30 minutes. And we bought a little bit under 2 acres in unincorporated Issaquah, which is in King County, which is right there in Seattle. And so with that little piece of heaven, which is really unheard of in our area to actually have some farmland, we were right on the cusp of farmland. So it actually worked out really well because we were unincorporated. We didn't have a lot of regulations that the actual city had. So we just started with just growing food and just having a garden, and just a modern tiny little garden space. And then, the chickens came, and then our dairy goats came, and then the garden turned into something that was very intentional. So we basically succession planted heavily. And then from there, we brought in a couple feeder pigs, and we didn't have any room because we are on the side of a mountain. And so we had to ask our neighbor hey, would you like these pigs to clear your land for you? And we ended up putting the feeder pigs there, and they cleared her whole little wooded area on a very level spot. So there was no land erosion. And then it started from there. But at the time, I didn't know it was homesteading. At the time, I was just like, hey, let's just have some chickens and then throw some meat birds in the front yard and have this garden. And so I decided that I was going to just document the journey, basically, to see, nobody was liking anything on my private page for Facebook. And I was like, obviously you guys aren't interested in this. And this was 10 years ago. Actually, what day is today?
It's the 17th of October.
Okay, so on November 13th, it will be 10 years. So wow. November 13th, and that's when the Facebook page started. And I was very candid and very honest about who I was and what I was doing and what I didn't know what to do. And I was going to fail. And if I failed, I shared it. If I succeeded, I failed it. If I succeeded, I shared it. But I think with that growth on that and being very transparent of who I am, I think the Facebook page is like almost at 80,000 followers right now for the brand of Farm Girl in the Making. And then, and so with that came incredible opportunities. The website of Farm Girl in the Making is an international learning platform now. It, hosts online courses and ebooks, and our market heavily sits in the US, Canada, Great Britain, Australia, and New Zealand. So we have a lot of market there. And then, of course, dots all over the world at that point. And so we started the Instagram page only because Facebook got really yucky, and it was very frustrating to me. And so yep. I started the Instagram page where it was, at the time, it was just drop a pretty picture, put a great caption, and tell the world what you were doing. And now it's turned into like a smaller version of Facebook, almost, in a sense, where everything is open, and you can do so many various things on it now. And then somewhere between Instagram and Facebook, I was convinced by a friend to start a YouTube channel. And I actually don't mind doing video. It's just I dislike photo editing immensely. And when we were living in Washington, we hardly had any service. So it, rendering anything out was like, forget it, we're done. We're not going to be able to do it. And it would crash. I'd have to stay awake, especially when I started doing collaborations and stuff. I was like, guys, I'm way behind. It's crashing on me. I'll see what I can do. And so, but if I really put an effort into YouTube, there's so much I could post on there. So if anybody out there is looking for a part-time gig on video editing, just let me know because I might. Are you really? Okay, we could talk later. Let's talk.
Send it to me.
But, yeah. So there was that. And then, so basically after being in Washington since 1991, COVID hit, and we knew that we were planning on leaving Washington State anyways, but we're going to wait until our youngest out of our second generation graduated. And so we decided that I had come to speak in Columbia, and I went home and I knew immediately that we were being called to move and to do something different. And so, we complied, and the Lord moved us to Tennessee with clear instructions of continue to teach and feed my people. And, I didn't understand what that meant in any way, shape, or the teaching part I had. I was like, okay, This is great, right? Keep teaching, keep doing whatever. But I didn't understand like who I was expected to keep in clean foods and do all those things and stuff like that. And so it took me about, I don't know, maybe about 6 months before I really dawned on me what was being expected. And the county that I live in is a very poor county. And so the lots of meth run in and out of here because we're mainly wooded and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the children are, the children of these people are going without food and things like that. And the county itself is quite poor. So I realized that I don't necessarily need to feed where I'm going to necessarily make a profit, which is necessary for me to keep doing this. But the focus was to teach this community what it means to consume a very clean and healthy food source as God intended. And so I really had to shift my mindset on like what was worth profiting and what was worth giving. And so we're still working on that because every time I drop a price, it's still not enough. And so I'm at the point right now where I will probably just either break even on my expenditures or I will end up not having a profit at all. And sometimes it's not having a profit at all to ensure that the community is fed and re-educated back into the process of where your food comes from, right? They would rather go to Walmart and buy $2 eggs or, chicken for $3.67 and whatever the case is. But So Tennessee bound we came, and with moving to Tennessee, our platform actually gained a sister. So right now our LLC sits Acorn Creek because I had to revamp it, and a Farm Girl in the Making sits underneath there. And our farm, actually Acorn Creek Farmstead, sits underneath that. So Acorn Creek Farmstead was there. And so Acorn Creek Farmstead ended up really threefold actually now. Threefold is that one is that we raise enough food to not only feed ourselves, but to cover the cost of labor, the feed costs, the material costs, and transportation costs to take it out to make a profit off of it. And so the farm basically breaks even as far as everything that we put into our bodies, plus a surplus to roll over into the following year if we need to, right? And so, on top of that, we teach hands-on workshops now at the farm. So the teaching has now gone from being digital or my speaking engagements and things like that. Because forgive me if I yawn because I just
you're fine. You're fine.
America. I just got America on Sunday, and I'm like still playing catch up on the whole weekend. So, but now we teach hands-on workshops. We teach anything from poultry processing to proper pasture rotation, infrastructure, canning, all three types of canning courses, and fermentation and sourdough and medicinal herbal classes and all that. And so we have been blessed that the workshops have just taken off. We have people from Texas, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, West Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia so far have come to our workshops.
That is
And
awesome.
So, yeah, so it's been a great blessing. And then my mother-in-law recently passed, and we had just moved her to the farm.
I'm sorry.
And so, oh yeah, it's okay. It's okay. We're at that healing phase. Yeah. So, but thank you. I appreciate that. So we were deciding what to do because she had bought a brand new modular home. And so we were deciding what to do with it. And Justin came up with the idea of just turning it into an agritourism Airbnb. So now we have this Airbnb that sits here on the property. And so, so the Airbnb sits here, and we've rented it out to individuals that have come from a distance to stay for our workshops, or if they just want to come and have the farm experience. You know, they understand it's a functioning farm, so it was really important, right?
Right.
So, because nobody wants to think that they're in this like big fairy tale farm, but pigs get out, cows get out, the rooster's crowing where you don't want him to crow, and the donkeys are braying, and then the four-wheelers moving things around. So fencing's going up all the time. So long story short is that we have had an incredible opportunity, and it's 10 years in coming. And I think that this year was very heavy in speaking engagements this year for me. But I think about it now, and it's like incredible because with each conference, that's more people that want to learn this lifestyle and more people that want to succeed in this lifestyle. And then in turn, that becomes more people that can continue to teach this lifestyle.
That's right.
And that puts more voting power in our pockets, right? And so we know at that point, right? Yep. Maybe when it comes down to it,
we can right make a shift.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what we do in a nutshell.
That is an awesome story. I mean, it's no surprise, to hearing about the drug problems in Tennessee. There's drug problems all along the Appalachia. I'm sure you got them in the Smoky Mountains just as much as we do here. And to be that pillar in the community that is trying to help these people, and we see it here a lot of times. The kids in and around the area here, they go without food. The only food that they get is the food that they got at school, right? And that's very, very sad. But it sounds like you're trying to break that generational curse, of
absolutely, absolutely,
right? Because I'm a Christian as well. That's what we do here in our family. We put God first, and everything else just kind of follows along. That's the first thing I ever preached on was seek ye the kingdom of God first, right? And all these things will be added onto you, and that's something that we live by here, and so to hear what you're doing there is really heartwarming, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm not the only one, because oftentimes I think, if you look at social media, you kind of think, well, there's not many Christian people out there doing this, right? Mm-hmm. It seems like the majority of them do it more for the profit or the glamour or whatever, the fame, and really meeting, like-minded people like yourself and your family, to where we're using the platform to push a lifestyle that is better for us, right? Mm-hmm. And like you said, one that God intended for us to live, right? But also to kind of get the gospel out there. We don't have to cram it down their throat, but we get little things here and there we can say, and it means a multitude, right? And so that's just so awesome to hear, and that you're right there in Tennessee and you're doing those things, and it sounds like you got a awesome little workshop that you guys have been doing, and being Airbnb and stuff, people can come and stay. I mean, I would like to come down there and check this out one day.
You're more than welcome to come down. You're only in West Virginia. You're right here.
That sounds so awesome, but I mean, I noticed whenever I ran across your Instagram, I was like, I want to get her on, because I started going through the Instagram and I was like, she does a lot of really cool things on here. And it's just inspiring to hear how people start. You started out in Washington, and you didn't have a whole lot. We don't have a lot. We got an acre. That's all we're working with now. We're hoping within the next 2 to 3 years that we can have at least 5 to 10 acres to do. But we're the same way. We're trying to ask neighbors like, hey, can we put certain things on
Yes.
your land? Can we do this? Can we do that? We met another YouTuber that lives here locally who has a lot of land. And, he said, hey, you can come and help us grow on our land. And I'm like,
Mhm.
Say no more. I'm all in, right? Because
Right.
I get to share that, but I also get to grow more food for our family and for our
Mhm.
community, right? So yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. This is what it's about. It's about sharing, and like you said, if we can get enough people to realize that they need this lifestyle, that this is the lifestyle that we are to be living.
Mhm.
We're not meant to be going to the grocery store and buying everything. I
Mhm.
was just on Shark Farmer podcast. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's the largest podcast, agricultural podcast in America, or actually North America. Shark Farmer. They got an Instagram and stuff too, but I think their last name is Sharky. And so I was on Sirius XM a couple weeks ago, and they just released the podcast that I was on the 12th. They released it today, and one of the things that I've told them on both of those was, if we can do enough to where, I know the days and times we live in, we're not going to grow everything
Mhm.
we can consume, right? But
Right.
if we can grow enough to take the
Mhm.
pressure off of the agricultural community, right?
Absolutely.
And and,
Absolutely.
and then they don't have to
Yeah.
push all these GMOs and everything. If
Right.
we took the pressure off of them, they could go back to growing the way they did. It's
Oh,
the fact that
absolutely.
when everybody stopped growing, that's what put the pressure on them. That's why they started having to do GMOs and all these other things, because everybody's like, well, I'm done. I got a
Mhm.
9 to 5. I work 5 days a week. The weekend's
Yes.
mine. I'm not growing anything anymore. And
Yes.
that lifestyle changed the way the agricultural community had to adjust fire to provide, right? Because if it
Mhm.
wasn't for them, we wouldn't have food, right? But so they had to figure out a way. And that's why you see all these different things. That's why, the chickens are getting antibiotics. That's why the cows get antibiotics. That's why they're, pushed full of salt water to make them more plump and all, to sell by the weight. All these different
Yeah.
things is because of us. We did it to ourselves, right? Because we quit living the way God intended us to live.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
And I think you're right. I think that with the onset of the grocery store, we thought we were doing good. The country thought they were doing good by feeding the masses and things like that. And at that time, when grocery stores were first started, they were still gathering food from local farmers, true local farmers. There wasn't
right.
no big ag, there wasn't anything like that. And now we're combating big ag as we go forward and do the things that we need to do. But in the process of that, if you go back and look and see who owns the actual organic labeling for certain things, you'll find that connection and that tie to big pharmaceutical, right?
Yep.
And so when you got big pharmaceutical that actually owns your food source, what are you going to do from that point? So basically, the job that I put forth on myself and the things that I do is the simple fact of educating individuals that 70% of your immune system runs through your gut. If your
Yep.
gut is not healthy, then you are paying for health care. So
Yep.
what do you want to do? Pay for health care to your local government, or do you want to turn around and say, I can put more money into food and learning how to ferment food to feed my gut or consume a cleaner diet? If I can't consume organic, then I can consume a non-GMO.
Right.
So, it's one of those things that education is so key. And that's what's happening here in my town is that there's three age brackets. Basically, there's the older people, right? They basically are in their 70s, 80s right now. They don't want this farming lifestyle or homesteading lifestyle because they were
Right.
forced to do it as kids.
Right.
And so they're like, heck no, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm not doing it anymore. I'd rather starve than have to go milk my cow. And that's what we're talking about here. You're like, do you want to go milk your cow first? I'm like, they can wait. Justin's out there. So, milk my cow or move my hogs or, whatever the case is. And I think that generation, and then you have their children who in Tennessee, they farm, but what they do is they raise cattle and then they buy them at auction. They raise buy the calves from auction, raise them up, and then they send them to what they call a feedlot at that point, right? So they're eating grains like for like 2 months, 2 weeks to
Yep.
2 months, depending on how long. And then from there, it's all just nothing, right? Where a little bit of effort, I've got 2 Angus cows going to butcher on grass fed. I've got another steer going to butcher next December. And then from there, my Dexter bull crosses my Jersey cows and I get a Belfair, which is meat and milk production for my family or somebody else's family.
Right.
But I think that people who are returning to this life of simplicity and things like that is they're doing it. My battery just, I didn't realize my battery was low. Sorry. Who are doing it are just in, needing to understand that we can't do it just for ourselves, right? We can't. Right. I mean, great. At the end of the day, we want to feed ourselves, and true, so very true. However, if we can't teach and take along somebody else and feed them in the process until we get there, then we're doing something wrong. Right. We're really doing something wrong, because in the process of getting there, we're teaching someone that says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and selfishly consume everything that I have and teach you where to go, where I can turn around and go, hey, if you are going to come and join me and this adventure that we're on to reclaiming a life and a tradition that's no longer here, I will be glad to sell you my wares, and this is what I'm going to sell them for you at, right? Yep. Until you can stand up on your own feet. So when we got to Tennessee, we've only been here 1 year and 10 months. When we got here, we have overgrazed pastures because they ran too many Angus and too many horses on there. They never pasture rotated. They didn't really care. So my pastures are beat up. So in 1 year and 10 months, we've reclaimed about 1/4 of our pasture space. We have a total of 42 acres, but of our pasture space, we have 26 acres of pasture space. Okay. We have 3 different pastures. Hold on 1 second. Let me plug this in.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in that, sorry.
No, you're fine.
In that process of maintaining pastures, I know that if I don't have sheep moving around constantly to manage my pastures and consume the things that my cows, my dairy cows won't eat and my beef cows won't eat, then, I'm just basically just treading water at that point. Right. And so when we turn around and we say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. In 1 year and 10 months, I have obtained 100% of our meat source. So we have hog, we have rabbit, we have lamb, we have our dairy cows that provide us all of our dairy. Then on top of that, we turn around and we do pasture-raised poultry as well too, ducks, turkeys, and chicken. And so there's not one thing that we buy from the market. However, I did have to go to the market today because of the simple fact I've been gone for a week and I got to feed my family. And I didn't buy a lick of meat, but my grocery bill was still $242.
Isn't that horrible?
I did buy a couple oils and stuff like that. But, who can afford to eat that? Who can realistically afford to eat that? I about died when the total came out. I was like, what did I buy? Yep. Produce that my season is done with, right? And things that we prefer to eat fresh. And then, of course, when I go there, I have to buy the certified organic label because who can live this lifestyle and walk around without buying a certified organic label, knowing what's happening to our foods, right?
Right.
And so the farmers markets are nowhere near us. We have to travel an hour to get to one. Bad timing, bad planning on my part. But, generally I would do that, but I was gone.
Right.
So, with the balance of this life to, in 1 year and 10 months, claim this all, it wasn't because it was feverishly opening a pack of chicken that was an organic pack of chicken that had rainbow coloring still on it.
Right.
We knew then that it was, instead of doing infrastructure for 3 years and only incorporating smaller livestock, focusing on the garden, we knew at that point that it was going to be infrastructure, larger livestock. So we ended up just doing that. We ended up just bringing in our milk cows because, they'll feed everybody on your farm. And then from there, our hogs came on and our sheep came on. 3 of the most necessary animals to raise: a dairy cow, pigs, and sheep, especially if you have overgrazed pastures. I think that since you've been on my platform, that my passion is food freedom. That I really truly advocate for food freedom. I do not sugarcoat the simple fact that I believe that our government is trying to keep us sick in order to control us. If they control the food source, what's the old saying? Who controls the food source controls the people. Yep. Absolutely. And if you're sick, you're not fighting that, right? And so I also will not falsely label my goods going out of my property. If it's milk, it's milk. It's not pet milk for pet consumption. It's not anything like that. It is milk.
Right.
You know, if someone comes to me and says, can you sell me breast meat? In Tennessee, it's illegal for me to sell a parted bird. I can process up to 20,000 birds without a USDA permit, but licensing, but I can't part it. So I have shares. Everything I do is a share. You want to join the poultry share? Then you and I have this agreement that I can part your birds. If you want to join my milk share, then you can buy the byproducts of the main product, right? If you want to join my CSA, this is what you're going to get off of my CSA. So we work with, in that sense of saying, I'm still going to feed you, but we are going to try to bypass as much as possible and,
Right.
you know, keep our freedoms to where we are and to make sure that, you know, we are doing it in a way. I mean, I always get asked, aren't you afraid? No, I'm
Nope.
not. I'm not afraid. I think that I think that I will probably end up getting reprimanded pretty heavily. I probably will end up getting fined. But I do know that at this point, if I can't make an example of who I am and what I do, then what good am I having a platform in that sense? Should I be
Exactly.
afraid? Should I be afraid and be like, hey, I'm just going to play by the rules because, you know, I don't want to pay a fine, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to help somebody else because they may not appreciate it back to me? That's not what God intended for us.
No.
God intended us for us to live free. I mean,
Exactly.
no.
I'm totally on board with that because, you know, I've ran into several things here, you know, with trying to sell things and the way that the wording and laws and stuff is and how people do things and stuff. And so, you know, there's those little outs that we can work out and do
Right.
and ways around it. But you're right. You know, they do what they do to keep us
Absolutely.
under their thumb,
Yeah.
to keep the control and to keep us sick, which, you know, and to keep us coming back. You know, I've, you know, I still got my grandmother around and my grandfather, you know, and you know, I told him, I said, you guys lived in a time when this was not the way it was, but now you will argue that this is okay.
Yeah.
I was like, have y'all ever stopped to think about the brainwashing that you guys have went under in your
Yeah.
life? I mean, you know, I was like, and now you try to propitiate that brainwashing on your whole family. You know,
Right.
like, oh, go get the jab, go do this, go do that, right? And it's
Right.
like, hang on a minute. Like, do y'all not see all the chaos that's went on in your entire lifespan, how things have changed, how your grandparents and your parents lived long lives without any health issues, you know, for a very, very long time, right? And
Mhm.
now you guys have got horrible health issues in your 80s.
Right.
Have you never stopped to think about that? You know, and once I started questioning those things, once I started pressing them on that, then they started going, oh well, you know, well, maybe. Well, no, there's no maybe to it. It's the
Mhm.
truth. You just overlooked it. You know,
Right.
you thought that, oh, they got our best interest at hand, when all the time they didn't. You know,
Mhm.
and so, you know, I think it's our job as people on, you know, platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. It's our job to be the watchers on the wall, sound the alarm, and tell people, you know, like,
Yes.
hey, this is what's going on. You know, if you take me off Facebook or wherever I'm at,
I
so
know.
be it. I'll make another account and start all over again, right? But
Yes, absolutely.
but I'm not going to shut up. You know, if you find me, okay, I'll pay the fine, whatever. But I'm not going to be silent about this anymore. There's too much. That's
True.
what they want. They want us to be
Yeah.
scared. They want us to be quiet, and they want to manipulate and control the masses, and, you know, to continue to fill their pockets to keep us sick. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm all for what you're doing there. This is a really, really good live stream. I like this, but
Because we're very rebel.
right, yeah.
It's a sad thing to say, right? We're the rebels. We're the ones that will fight the government till the bitter end. We're the ones that will, you know, will stand up and stand tall. And I think that we have to have a realization too, right? So not everybody wants to come and do what we do, because I
Right.
mean, I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm moving hogs, you know, I'm milking cows, you know, I'm moving my pasture raised chickens, and then I come in and I sit at my desk and I do the rest of it. So we farm, and then Justin still works full time. And then I sit at my desk and I do the rest of everything else that needs to be done. Right.
Yep.
And then on top of that, I still have to keep house. I have
Right.
I have a daughter I still have to raise. That's the last one in the house. And I think that that's not for everyone. And that is okay. That is okay that it's not for everyone.
Yep.
But the thing that when it's not for you and you can't grow in a 7,000, our garden space is 7,000 square feet. You cannot grow in a 7,000 square foot garden, and you can't raise all these livestock. That these individuals need to be taught where to go get a food source that's not corrupt, not toxic, not something that you have to worry about putting in your mouth,
Absolutely.
And right now the biggest argument is it organic? Non-GMO is not good enough, right? And it's like, I look at them and I'm like, I see what you put in your mouth. I don't tell me
you go to McDonald's.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, for us, we get our feed. It's a non-GMO whole grain feed that's grown, milled, and packaged an hour away from me on the same farm. Okay. And so I know where my feed comes from. I know exactly what it is. And I pay a good penny and I drive 1 hour each way to go pick it up.
Right.
And so I think that for those individuals who are in town and are in suburbs, that they learn to really utilize the farmer's market. But if the farmer's market isn't happening, then to find that local farmer that can still feed you. I mean, at the end of the day, what you're paying more for a supermarket organic piece than you would from a small farmer at that point in time.
Right.
And they just don't want that inconvenience of having to go and pick it up. Like, I'm getting ready to launch my CSA packages for next year. Okay, great. Sounds good, right? Sounds amazing. You're going to get 1 pound of some kind of meat. You're going to get milk. You're going to get eggs. You're going to get whatever produce is available right then and there, right? Sounds great. Sounds like everything that you're going to need. However, I'm only 15 minutes from town. 15 minutes from town, but that's too far.
Right. Well,
I'm like, you drive past my house to go to Walmart, and that's 35 minutes from you. And I'm like, wait, what?
It blows my mind. The lunacy, idiocy, whatever you want to call it, right? Of people's mindset today. Non-GMO is what they want. Organics, not good enough, whatever, right? But they'll put McDonald's in their mouth.
Oh, every day, every Sunday, my daughter works at McDonald's.
Right.
And she's like, Mom, it's past. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Or your prices are too high.
Yes.
But we want X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
Well, if you want these things, you gotta pay for it. This is my question to them. Is my price too high? Because when you got to go to that doctor, how much are you paying that doctor? How much are you putting out? It's one or the other. And this is what America has lost. If food is medicine, which we know it is, clean food is medicine. Clean food. Okay, let's be fair. Clean food is medicine. Fermentation feeds your gut flora. 70% of your immune system runs through your gut. But then all of a sudden the government says on the National Center for Home Food Preservation that the safest way to preserve fermented foods is to can it, which kills the bacteria for it, so which does absolutely nothing for it. Right. So, it's one of those things where you can all day long do everything right. And if their mindset says that's too much, I would rather drive past your house another 25 minutes to get to a grocery store so I can buy a pack of chicken for $3. What did you just do to the earth? What did you just do for your wallet when you have to pay for the cost of gas, the wear and tear on your car and all that stuff? So now here I am sitting here going, the CSA package would so help so many people. How can I do this? How can I do this and still somehow make a profit? Well, the first thing I would have to do is haul it into town, which isn't a problem to me. Once a week into town anyways, because I've got to pick up things from town. The co-op's there, the Tractor Supply's there. My feed store is not there, but they're there. Right. So running it into town one day a week is not a big deal. And mind you, the CSA package isn't to feed 100 people. The CSA package is to feed like maybe 10 to 15 to 20 people.
Right.
And it's like pulling teeth to say, hey, your garden's not lucrative. Let me help you. And just let me do something for you. If it's once a month, once a week, or whatever. You don't want to pay for the milk package because you're not going to drink the milk? Great. Let's look at the vegetable package. Do you still want the meat? Right. So, I will say that, and there is a difference because I can sell my wares off of the farm all day long to transplants to Tennessee. Meaning those people who left wherever food freedom was not allowed to come to Tennessee and live freely, I could sell to them all day long, but I can't sell to the local individuals of Tennessee here. And that really bothers me, maybe because I'm type A personality. Number two, I'm like, what are you doing to yourself? Right. You're dictating it. But then if you look, let's just get off topic for a second. Like, we're like sitting here to say, the second round of COVID vaccinations, the one, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever it is at this point, the new Gen X, let's call it this series. And only 2% of Americans actually got it. 2%. 2% got it. So somewhere along the lines, they're not trusting their government any longer. So only 2%, that's still 7 million people, 7 million Americans got it. But okay, great. We stood up to that. We fought that one. I don't think they're going to try to push it anymore, but it's not cold and flu season yet. I'm sure another variant's going to come out at that point. Much more deadly. But if we don't take magnesium, if we're not upping your vitamin C's, if you're not putting the iron into your body and you're not eating all those healthy things with the vitamins, we know that cold and flu season is going to be a beast. Right. And I think that I don't understand. I'm just going to be very candid. I just don't understand how America is one of the only countries in the world that eat the biggest amount of crap out of anybody. And we allow GMO, where we allow Roundup, where it's banned in so many countries. That fake lab meat is now banned in almost 7 countries. And here we are. And then there's open markets all around the world, but not us.
Well, if you go to like Germany, UK, anywhere over there, and you look at let's say Mountain Dew, right? The yellow number 5 and all that stuff that's in our Mountain Dew is not in their Mountain Dew, right? Like completely different ingredient, list there. And it's like, now hang on a minute. Why do we have Mountain Dew here that is illegal over there? What's the problem, right? And when you tell people that, they look at what? Yeah, it's bad for you. It's been proven that all these dyes are really, really bad for you, bad for the kids, causes ADHD, causes all sorts of different other things, and all these different things. And people will look at you and say, well, I just don't believe that. I've drank it all my life and I ain't got no issues. But then they'll go and take an insulin shot or ADHD medicine or something, and it's like, but you're taking the medicine that it causes the problem. And people they refuse to open their eyes to look at the truth, right? It's easier to look over what somebody's saying than to look at the truth and realize that you've been lied to and manipulated, But I think a lot of people, though, are realizing that they've been lied to and manipulated, and they're coming to their senses, I think.
I think that they are, but then again, it's the pocketbook situation, right? It's like our seniors right now are on a very tight budget, right? And so being able to afford the foods that we have as a whole is not necessarily the best thing possible. And so when you turn around and you're offering this to them, but they can't afford to eat it, first of all, is a problem. And then you come to my county where they can't afford to buy it, most of them. And then you turn around and then you're like, okay, well, where's the rest of the population? We're in the suburbs, we're in the city where they're paying top dollar for housing, top dollar for everything, and they can't afford it. Maybe it's because they're in debt and they really can't afford it, whatever the case is. But they're paying for their health care. And when you pay for your health care, you can minimize half of that. Justin, my family doesn't have health insurance. Okay, we don't. We would rather pay out of pocket for emergencies than anything else. And so we don't have health insurance. Is it smart? Maybe not. I mean, when I got burned, I tripped on my scalding pot and I got 3rd-degree burns. I was at Vanderbilt in the burn center and, things like that. So I'm paying out of pocket for that. But the likelihood of me paying because I'm sick, because I'm not consuming good foods it's not going to happen.
Right. You're not going to have to worry about diabetes. You're not going to have to worry about triple bypass or something like that. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have to worry about, did I break a bone? Did I get burned? Something of that nature, which is totally different than, all these other things that have ties to them with major surgeries and lifelong medications.
Correct.
And you're right. You're very right. Like that is the question. Like, do people, and here's the other thing. It's like you said earlier, this life is not for everybody. You know what I mean? It is a very, very tough life. It's a strenuous life, and it will put strain on the family as a whole.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, there are times when we're like, ready to go at each other's throats. And it's like, hang on a minute, let's just take a break. We're worn out. We know we're worn out. We've pushed that mark. All right. We take that step back and we say, okay, now let's just regather our thoughts. Let's, do it the right way. But, and like I said, you're right. This is not for everybody, but we can do a lot for those around us. So you might have to work that 9 to 5, but I can help feed you. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you would just help me out, right? Like we can support each other. I can give you good health. I can give you good canned food, good fermented food, good food all the way around, fresh food out of my produce and everything. My chickens right now, or hopefully my goats soon, my pigs hopefully as well. I can keep you in that if you can help me out. You know what I mean?
And that's what it is. And
right.
I think that with you saying that, I think that that's the key point is that the system of barter, trade, grow, whatever, it's no longer, Americans live a very fast-paced life.
Yep.
And we're the fastest paced life ever. We trust our government, and then the smart ones are like, okay, hold on, let me back up. Not to say that everybody's dumb, but the ones that question find answers that others are too afraid, and you nailed it, too afraid to hear or to learn or to want to comply with. And so, I was sitting next to Joe Salatin at the Homesteaders of America conference during the Q&A. And I called him out because he is the co-founder of Rogue Food, right? Him and John Moody are co-founders for Rogue Food. And the only way to speak at the Rogue Food conference is if you've been arrested or harassed by your county officials. And I have not yet been arrested for speaking on food freedom, and I have not yet been harassed by my county officials. And so I looked at Joel, and right in front of everybody, I was like, yeah, still not speaking at the Rogue Food conference there, Joel. And he starts laughing at me. He goes, you're not arrested yet, are you? And I'm like, nope. So it's one of those things that, we can advocate as much as we want. We can provide international website. We can turn around and do workshops on the farm. We can turn around and offer clean foods. But if they're not ready for it, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. And I think the best thing we can do is continue to plant that seed of knowledge into their brains. And so when the time comes and all of a sudden they're looking around, they're like, boom, okay, the light bulb just turned on. I'm seeing it now. This is what I've heard this whole entire time. And they were right. And that's what's happening in America right now. But here's the other thing too, is that homesteaders and farmers right now want to come back to generational living and want to come back with working with each other on the farm. And the thing is that how do they do that if they've got to pay for mortgages and truck payments and tractors and buy what they need and to turn around and do it? And I think that the biggest lessons that I've taught on this year, and oddly enough, this year is I've talked twice on creating a profit on the homestead. Once at Homesteaders America this past weekend, and then the other one was at the Homestead Festival here in Tennessee. But here's the thing is that the women, the ones that have stayed home, tended gardens, raised babies, did all the cooking, right, are now going, how can I help and contribute financially to this? So this is the next thing is that womanhood as a whole, right? We sit there and we're like, what can I do? And I'm like sitting here and I'm like, I don't have babies under my belt anymore. They're all teens now and all adults. And the thing about it is that, I wake up, I farm, and then I come in and I work at my desk. But how can these women contribute to bringing their spouses home? That is the next thing. And there's so much that could be done, but they don't know where to start. So I think it's at this point too, is that if you think about, okay, so I went to, off topic a little bit. I went to the Laura Ingalls Wilder's estate, right? As after I left the Ozark, I drove to the Ozarks to speak at the Ozark conference, the expo up there. And so I stopped at her farm and I was like, what they did was a woman still got up, still did all the chores, still milked, still ran her wares to market, right? Still turned around and came back, sold her eggs, turned around and came back, did all the milking, did all the growing, had an apple orchard, still baked and cooked full time. But somewhere along the lines, we as women have somewhat lost that. We either were taking care of babies or keeping house. And it's like, if the Proverbs woman can balance all that, and then these women at, Laura Ingalls Wilder's could do it, right? Where is that balance at a later date and time? I see this picturesque on Instagram and I look at it and I smile because it's a beautiful picture. But a lot of these homemakers now are just doing the preserving, the garden, the cooking, and keeping babies. Why aren't they out in the fields at the same time? Why aren't they out raising and growing and slopping pigs and loading them onto the trailers and doing all this stuff? Because most of them aren't. And
Right.
it's like, if we're going to embrace this whole life and profit off of it and bring our spouses home, we got to be doing that at the same time.
Right.
And then once both units are at home, then we can conquer and divide after that.
Yep.
But right now it's not happening. And that's why most families fail in bringing their spouses home together to profit off of that market. Now, imagine if my 10 neighbors who are following protocol A of womanhood is cooking, garden, babies, right? And then the husband's coming home and doing whatever he can on the weekends or in the evenings. That's not going to bring your spouses together. That's not going to be a family unit again, the way that we want to create it.
Right.
And if you have any ladies listening here, I'm going to tell you right now, you need to get out and get down and dirty, move pigs, move fencing and stuff like that. Babies in tow, whatever the case is, because right now, without having our spouses at home, we are not succeeding in accomplishing our goals of changing the way America looks.
Right. And, I see this so much. I'm so thankful that you brought this up. I see it a lot of times. You'll have a homesteading family, right? Mm-hmm. One of them, male or female, one of them passionate about it. The other one, not so much.
Amen.
Knows it's important, knows it's needed, but doesn't really
buy into it.
Right.
Yeah, doesn't buy into it quite yet. I have close friends that are struggling with this right now. And it's like, one wants it so bad. The other one was appeasing the other person. And then finally was like, well, I don't want a milk cow. I want to be tied down.
Right. This is not a 9-to-5 cookie cutter life.
Correct.
This is a 24-hour, 7 days a week life.
Yeah.
And if you want it, you have to, I've told this to other people. If you want this life, you have to be sold out to it like you're sold out to Christ.
Yes, really, exactly.
Because if you're not that committed and that sold out to it, the next little thing that comes through will distract you and take you away from it.
That's right.
The same way that sin comes in and distracts you and takes you away from Christ. You know what I mean? So you literally have to be married to this life. You have to want it more than the normal person, right? And so I think a lot of times, like you said, that's why people fail. That's why you don't see the women out doing those things. They want the little parts of it, but they don't want the wholeness of it. They want the guy to come home and be a part of it, but they're not willing to do the sacrificial parts to do what it takes to get them home. Not realizing that if you sacrificed for 6 months hard labor, you would have him at home.
Absolutely.
And then your burden would be lifted and lighter.
Yes. And I think that that's what it is. I think that that's where where many homemakers are learning that aspect of it, right? They're like trying to problem solve it. They're trying to do little things. Some of them will have a soap business. Some of them may have a sewing business or whatever the case is that's compensating or there's some of them may like run a killer YouTube channel that's generating like great money on it.
Right.
But the point of it is that what's happening with the farm? Where is the farm at? What's going on with the farm? What's going on with your property? What's going on with feeding yourselves and your family and your community or whatever the case is? And I think that we as a whole in this life that we live, we have to look at the big picture. Once both parties are home, then we can conquer and divide and say, okay, you're going to do the hogs today. Do you need my help? No. Okay, then this is what I'm going to go do today. Because there are times where I'm like, I need you to come to Justin into the garden with me. I got to move like 26 wheelbarrows of mulch into the garden beds now. And he knows I'm not going to be able to get it done in a timely manner myself. So he's like, great, let's go. And so we go and we do it together. And, even though he works 4 days off the farm, that still doesn't stop me from having to do all the feeding, starting seeds, preserving what's in the harvest, turning around, then cooking stuff at the same time. If I have to move fencing, I have to move fencing, things like that. We try to schedule more of that stuff when he's home, but sometimes it doesn't work like that. If the cows got out and destroyed my braided wire fencing, I'm going to have to either retie it or put a new strand out. Right.
Right.
So I think that though this life is a lifestyle that many want to live, I think that the big picture is a hard pill to swallow when you've never lived it
That's
or
true.
had family live it, right?
Yep.
And I think that the responsibilities of it are crazy because there are still mortgages out there to be paid, or if you were smart, you paid off your vehicle and you kept it, but there are people still out there buying like trucks that are like $100,000.
$70,000. Yeah. Yeah.
And what do you do? What do you do with something like that? You have to pay it off.
Right.
And I
Or the
think
tractor,
right. Yeah, the tractor especially. And I think
Right.
that when one truly encompasses the concept of living a very traditional and simple life, we know the first thing and foremost is what we put into our bodies is medicine, right?
Yep.
And then the second thing is that, we're not conspiracy theorists. We're very
No.
logical in our thinking,
Yep.
and we want proof, right? Proof of this doesn't make any sense. So give me the proof that it is going to make sense. Change
Right.
my mind. Change my
Right.
mind and tell me what you're telling me is safe for me.
Right.
And then, and then from there, bringing both spouses home and having a family unit at home and normalizing that again is key.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
the other thing on top of that is that we have lost Christ in our family unit. And, more families are coming back to the faith right now. But
Right.
the problem is that you as an adult are coming back, but when you didn't display that for your children, you're struggling with your children in the process to bringing it back. Right.
Yep.
And so I think that at the end of the day, there is so much to behold about being an individual that really encompasses this life. It is hard.
It
is
very
hard. I've traveled every month from April all the way up until November of this year. Some months I was gone twice a month. Justin had to man the farm, while I was in my absence. But it's what I do, right now. And I told Justin, I said, maybe I should pull it back next year. Maybe next year I can should only take a couple of speaking engagements. And my husband is a theology major. And he said to me, which really surprised me because I thought he was going to be like, yeah, I'm really tired. You need to, let's reel it back in and be home. Right.
Right.
He said to me, he says, your calling right now is to not be here.
Yep.
Your calling right now is to do exactly what you're doing. When you're not doing it anymore, God has said you fulfilled what he's asked you to do. So
That's
for right now, we suck it up. We're tired. You come home. We're tired. I'm tired. I have to do this by myself. But this is what we're being called to do, and we will comply. And so as hard as it is, next year, my speaking engagements have already doubled. So
wow.
I'm not gone 6 months, 7 months. I'm now gone I'm up to 12 right now. 12 times from basically April to November. And so that's twice a month. Yeah. But like I said, God, for some reason, will use people to do the things that he does. And, and then when you've served what he needs, then he will allow you to rest.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm just sitting here waiting for that resting moment because I'm tired.
I heard that. Well, I know you're going to have to go. I do have just one last question for you. And I really appreciate all your time. So what would you say to those who are aspiring to do this or are in this, but are not completely sold out to them? What bit of advice or encouragement could you give them to help them along the way?
I think that the best thing to do is to really think about what you can take on. A lot of them are homesteading on less than 5 acres, and that is okay. Find out what your end goal is. Is your end goal to own 42 acres and farm and feed your community and teach at the same time? Then work your way up to doing that. If your goal is to just consume a clean food source as a family unit, right? And manage to do that while breaking even and selling your wares, so you're coming in at a zero expenditure, then figure out a way to do that as well too. But the bottom line is that wherever you live, wherever you reside, right, you can always grow on a patio. You can always grow in Greenstock Garden Towers. You can always find that patch of garden space. What do they call it? The community garden.
Yep.
Shop your farmer's market, shop your local farmer, and then really save your money to get to where you need to be. Wait for the real estate market to really go up, sell then, and then buy property when it drops low.
Right.
And so I think that, at the end of the day, it is going to be essential that whether you are actually homesteading on large acreage or not, that you learn to really start relying on your local farmer in your area and buy your meat from them. And a local farmer is anywhere from 5 acres up to 100 acres.
Yep.
It's just that it's their own business, their own farm. They don't send it off to Tyson. They don't, do all those things, that there's no mRNA in the pork or the beef or anything like that. And that we realize that raw milk is healthier than pasteurized milk.
Yes,
we understand that fermented foods is going to feed us. We understand the importance of consuming product that's not been tainted, right? And I would just say that, at this point in time, do it wherever you're at and wait for the real estate market to change and then make your leap like we did. Like we moved with just to be in compliance of what our Lord has asked us to do. And so, with individuals who cannot do that, it doesn't matter. It may be 5 years before you can do that. It may be 10, it may be 20, but find that local farmer, support your body and your family's body, and consume a cleaner food source. Really investigate what your government's telling you, and always, always, always strive to achieve food freedom. Because I'll say it the second time, is that who owns the food source owns the people. And Big Pharma currently owns, if I looked at the chart correctly, and my math could be wrong, Justin would correct me on this, is that Big Pharma owns almost 70% of organic labeling across the country.
Yep.
So when that happens, those organic labelings don't mean
nothing. Nope.
So we have to think about that as we move forward. So
and that's why it's important to make sure you got your local farmer or you're growing your own.
Absolutely. Homestead where you live.
Right. Absolutely.
You could buy from a local farmer and preserve food at the same time. It doesn't have to be. I mean, I was shoving jars underneath our beds because I had no closet space,
We've got them stacked up everywhere. Literally.
Absolutely.
The cellar got full, so we just started stacking them up behind the couch. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, but we got food,
Absolutely.
And we don't mind a trade. Like we trade with the neighbors,
barter and trade. Absolutely.
Bring it back. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Bring the barter and trading back, Well, I really appreciate your time. We went way past what you'd wanted to.
I just read an hour.
but I was good for it. I really appreciate it. But you were great. I would love to have you back on, because I think there's so much that we could really unwrap in this. I mean, there's just a ton that I would love to ask you on another YouTube or another live stream.
Yep.
So I'd definitely love to have you on. I'm just going to go through who we got in the next couple of weeks. So October 24th, which is next Tuesday, we have 7 Ken Homestead. October 31st, we have Hematite Homestead. November 7th, we have Jason Loris. He's the current world record holder for the giant butternut squash. November 14th, 21st, and 28th is open. So if anybody'd like to come in, just email me, babydrill2119@yahoo.com. We'd love to have you. December 5th, we got Enoch Graham, the urban gardener. And then the 12th, 19th, and 26th of December are open. So again, if anybody would like to be on the live stream, we'd love to have you. Don't matter if you got a big channel, little channel. If you love homesteading or gardening, we would want to have you on. Again, I really appreciate you coming on. Where can everybody find you at so they know where to go?
You can actually follow me under Facebook or social media. We're actually jumping ship as well too. We're not leaving those, but we're moving over to Twitter. because we'll probably be booted off of social media soon. So just looking for A Farm Girl in the Making. Our website is farmgirlinthemaking.com. If you need to learn how to do all the things that you want to do, my book is actually listed there. Our online courses are listed there. Our workbooks listed there as well too. And recipes, cooking tips, livestock, animal husbandry, everything. And if you're in Tennessee, you can definitely look up our farm. It's Acorn Creek Farmstead, and we're in Wayne County down in Waynesboro. So the Airbnb is currently off a listing right now because we're doing winter rental, and then we open back up in spring where the season actually is, and then you guys can start booking in spring for that.
Awesome. That is so awesome. So guys, go check her out. I really enjoy her content on Instagram. Maybe I can help her out with YouTube. We'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah. So but guys, go check her out. She's fantastic. I really love her content. Thank you again so much for coming on. I'm going to end this. I'll stop it, and then you can wrap up on our end, and then I'll let you cut out. All right.
All right.
So
Thank
guys,
you.
appreciations watching, and we'll see you next time right here in the hollers and hills of West Virginia. See y'all.